That is it. The 73 members of the European Parliament who are British packed their belongings yesterday. They are out. But of course, the European Parliament still has a huge interest in the future relationship between the EU and the UK, and crucially, on the way individuals are treated. People living here who are European citizens, but also Britons who live in Europe. In the past, there's even been talk of some sort of an association with the EU that British people could choose to have if they wanted to in the future. These matters are all close to the heart of Guy Verhofstadt, the European Parliament's Brexit coordinator. He's here in the UK. He's been meeting the Brexit Secretary and others. And in his first interview since that meeting, he is here in the studio. Mr. Verhofstadt, good morning to you.
Morning.
The government says that its settled status scheme is a huge success. Is it?
Well, there are still some anxieties within the EU citizens living here in Britain. And the reason why I was here was to see together with our UK counterparts how we can eliminate these anxieties in the coming days, in the coming weeks. And there are mainly three things. The fact that people want a physical document so that they can prove that they have this settled status, because in fact, millions have already received that settled status. But they all say, how can I prove it? In the past, the government said, they take a screenshot of the decision, but you cannot live with a screenshot of your computer. That's not the way. So yesterday, I think they said, okay, we're going to look that people can print it so that they have a physical document.
Well, that's important, because that would be a change. What the government has said up to now, just to be clear about the way they've done it online, they've suggested that it's a better thing to be done online because it's secure. It's not something you put in a drawer and lose.
That will not change, but the people will have the possibility to have a printout. Probably a PDF document
that they can take to if they're
they can have a
renting somewhere or getting a job. They can take the physical thing there.
Yeah.
And so you have that assurance, do you, from Steve Barclay?
That was the conclusion of our conversation. The second conclusion of our conversation on deportation, because there will always be people who don't fulfill the procedures because they don't even know that they exist.
Yeah, of whom there are about 900,000 at the moment.
And there will be a grace period. There will be a grace period.
Did he tell you that at the end of the period they won't be deported?
Well, that's exactly what I want to talk about. What will happen for those people even after the grace period? Well, there will be no automatic deportation. That's important because there will be the possibility still to stay in a regular way under the conditions and giving the grounds why you didn't do it.
So just to be clear about this, because I think in the past the government has suggested that people would, in the end, be deported if they didn't make an application. But just to be clear about what they're telling you.
There was a lot of contradiction about that.
Yes.
Some people were talking about deportation. Others said, no, there will be no deportation.
But the position now...
I wanted to be sure that there is no automatically a deportation of these people, even after the grace period, because it can be people who are very vulnerable.
And you have that assurance.
And the idea will be that even for these people after the grace period, they will have a possibility to apply, giving the grounds why it was not possible to do it within the normal procedures. And then the third, also very important, the independent monitoring authority, who have to oversee this whole thing. We want to be sure that it is really independent. I got my reassurances by the Secretary of State that it will be independent. And moreover, I think there is a possibility in the procedure, as I have seen it now, for example, the movement of the 3 million, to put forward candidates, academics or judges, if they are in full compliance with the conditions. So I hope to see that also people presented by the 3 million movement could be chosen by the Minister of Justice as in the independent monitoring authority.
Can I just be absolutely clear about the deportation threat? Because this is something, and people we've talked to on this programme, European citizens who've lived here, some of them for decades, have said the whole process makes us feel frightened. We don't like the idea of us as a group having our details kept by the government as if we are separate from anyone else. You are saying what you have been told in absolutely clear terms is that there is never going to be a deportation of someone who wants to stay and can provide evidence that they should stay.
Exactly. Yeah. So even when he didn't ask for settled status or pre-settled status in now, there is also a grace period. Even after that, when there will be the possibility for this person to make his stay regular.
And what the British government says, hang on a second, so what the British government says, well, all right, we've done all this, we're doing all this for Mr. Verhofstadt. What European governments are not doing is
quite rightly so. There is a problem also with an anxiety under the UK citizens living on the continent. So what we're going to do now is increase the pressure in the coming days. There will be a letter going out from our side, Parliament, to the member states and to the Council saying, look, in 12 countries things are going very well. In 12 countries, they have a declaratory system, so it's not need to applicate for citizenship of that country. In others, it's more difficult, and we want to be sure that in 2020, also in these other 15 countries of the European Union, things are going smoothly. So we're going to increase the pressure so that we can also take away anxiety under UK citizens living on the continent.
But these are sovereign governments. It's all very well for you to write a letter to them, but actually they will do what they see fit to do, won't they? And you can't force them to do anything.
I cannot force them. I cannot force even not the UK government either. But by continuing the pressure as we are doing, we have already gone a long way, and I think we're going to succeed also in 2020 for these countries. So that's the best what we can do. But we will do, and we will increase the pressure.
So you think that British citizens in the EU at the moment will have at least the same status and the same guarantees?
Exactly, because that's foreseen in the withdrawal agreement. And then there is the last point. I know that I have received many letters about the possibility for UK citizens wherever.
Well, you talked about it at one stage, didn't you? Some sort of associate citizenship.
Yeah. So in the resolution of the Parliament that has been adopted by a huge majority, nearly 90% voted in favour. That's not what is happening every day. We again have said we're going to examine this, and we ask to the member states to examine it. There is also maybe the possibility to discuss it in the new conference on the future of Europe that we will launch inside the European Union.
You're chairing that, aren't you?
Well, that is what is foreseen, yeah, but everything has to be formalized, and I'm very cautious about that. First of all, I want to see it formalized before claiming it that I'm doing it.
Yeah. But when it comes to some sort of associate citizenship that people in Britain could sign up to, you're in favour of it, and you still are.
I'm in favour from day one.
Is it genuinely, hand on heart, is it feasible?
Not only for UK citizens. My idea is that the European Union and European citizenship has to be possible also for a European living somewhere else in the world. That is not citizenship is not limited to a territorial definition of citizenship, but that people who have their links with Europe could keep their citizenship of the European Union. So it's not about the UK only. It's a more broader concept, and it will be discussed in this conference. But also, more importantly, in the last resolution, I think for the fourth or the fifth time, we have urged the member states to start to look into that. It's not an easy thing, because some people are saying, yeah, look, you need to change the treaties for that. And changing the treaties in the European Union is certainly not the most easy task to do. But certainly we will continue to examine it, and certainly during this negotiation, because this is not for now. This is for the future, and a sort of European citizenship.
On trade, which of course is a set of negotiations about to begin, what in broad terms do you think is possible? How ambitious can both sides be?
Well, I think that both sides have an interest to be very ambitious. But how far this will go is very difficult to say today, because it will depend on what the willingness is of the UK side also to comply with a number of standards in the European Union. We are always saying no tariffs, okay, no quotas, okay, but also no dumping. That are the three elements. There are not two elements on the table. And
when you talk about dumping, you're talking then about state aid. You're talking,
that can be state aid, that can be ecological standards,
yes,
that can
it's
be
it's
social
a broad
standards,
range of
yeah,
things.
that are the way we are doing.
And if Britain decides not to sign up to those things or to a lot of those things, what?
It will be very difficult to have a broad free trade agreement at that moment. But that depends completely. So people are saying, Britain wants a very ambitious free trade agreement. I say, okay, fine, but you have to be ambitious also then in your willingness to apply the standards of Europe. But it will be not the only thing. Everybody is talking about FTA, like the other things are not important, but security cooperation, cooperation in foreign policy, cooperation in defense, all this will be also on the table.
And also, of course, that some European countries will see some things as more important than others. So some are very interested in access to fishing stocks. Others will be much more interested in security and foreign policy, etc., etc., the car industry. In those terms, what the British government believes is that it now has more of an advantage that it had in the initial set of negotiations because European countries themselves will be vying with each other.
That was already said in the beginning of this whole negotiation 3 years ago.
True now, isn't it?
And it never happened. No,
but it might now.
Why it will not happen this time also? Because there is really, since Brexit, a feeling that this European project is important, that the single market is crucial to survive in the world of tomorrow. And so nobody of the 27 will undo the single market. Nobody of the 27 will eliminate the freedoms that are the basis of the single market. Nobody wants to destroy this European project. So that if there has been one positive thing of Brexit, that has been a feeling on the continent that, oh no, that we don't want to collapse the European Union in a world dominated by whom? By Chinese, by India, by America, with social media completely in the hand of the Asians and the Americans.
But you also don't want a very powerful competitor, which is what Britain would be, right on your doorstep with whom you do not have very good relations. In other words, there are plenty of European countries, aren't there, who would feel, actually, we've got to bend over backwards now to make sure that we don't have someone next to us who damages.
It's obvious that we need a close relationship. the distance between the continent on the one hand and Britain on the other hand will not increase with Brexit. It will stay the same as it was in the past.
And on that point, a Labour MEP said yesterday, Seb Dance is his name, he said, one day British MEPs will get to sit here again and represent our interests and work with our neighbours. Britain, he says, is taking a sabbatical.
Well, I think that will happen, yeah. It's difficult to say when, actually, but there will be a young generation in the coming decades who will say later, oh, what we have done. We want to go back. It will happen. Maybe I will not see it in my life anymore, but it will happen.
Guy Verhofstadt, nice to talk to you. Thank you.